Hello.
Hi.
Welcome. Are you excited to have our first official person on the couch?
It's a very comfortable couch.
Yeah, thanks, and it's kind of cozy. We had TC and via Zoom, and now we have you here.
Our favourite woman ever.
Our favourite woman ever, and for the past couple of days we've spoken about how inspiring you are and how you've navigated a journey that you wouldn't, I guess, wish upon anybody, but you've handled everything with grace.
Yeah.
And it's an honour to sit here and have you here. So about 7 years ago, something massive happened to you.
Yes.
And it's shaped who you are today.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for having me.
You are
So
good.
great to be here.
Pleasure.
So almost 7 years ago in December of, I think it was 2013, my husband and I were on our way home from a holiday in the south in Waihi, and we were travelling home and we were hit by a driver.
Wow.
We think he fell asleep at the wheel, but we're not sure if he blacked out or something. Don't know what happened. Anyway, we found ourselves on our way home, and all of a sudden our lives have changed. So he crossed the centre line, and I remember that moment so vividly. Still, most details I can remember.
Wow.
And my husband was driving at the time, and I managed to get out of the car, and it was quite amazing that I could even do that.
Yeah.
But my husband Jono was stuck in the driver's seat, and the car had come across the centre line and hit him, and he was needing help to get out. I remember that I felt like there were people there straight away, which was like such an incredible thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember there being any moment where I felt like there wasn't anyone there to help us.
Wow.
And so after that life-changing moment, I was sitting on the side of the road, and I just remember being like, what the heck has just happened? Like, there's this guy that came over to me, and he's like, these things I guess just happen, and he was so lovely and kind, and I was freaking out because I couldn't find my jandals. It was so random.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like,
so
it was in summertime, and I was just like trying to figure out like what's going on. I can't find my jandals, my handbag. And he gave me his jandals, and he was like, it's going to be okay.
Wow.
And the people were amazing. And I remember sitting there and being like, well, I can hear Jono talking, so at least he doesn't have a head injury.
Yeah. Yes.
But I was most worried actually about his limbs, because not that long before that, my sister had gone through a massive cancer journey, and that resulted in a emergency amputation. So these were the things that I was thinking. He's gonna lose his limbs. He's gonna lose blood. Is he gonna be okay? And all the emergency services took me aside and just helped me to navigate away from the scenario. And I just was like, okay, God, well, he's yours. And in a short amount of time, the fire trucks came and got the things that get them out of the car and cut the car open, and he ended up being airlifted to Tauranga Hospital. During that time, I got taken to the ambulance and checked over. They didn't know if there was anything wrong with me. So they checked everything, put me in a neck brace, and I was lying there. And then the driver of the other car was also put into my ambulance.
Oh, wow.
And that was quite full on.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So I was there, and the man was there, and I remember thinking he's quite an elderly guy, so it ended up that he was in his 70s, and they were doing a lot of work on him because he had actually hurt himself quite severely as well. And so it was about an hour and a half drive to Tauranga, and I was just in the ambulance going, okay, I don't know where Jono is, but I know he's being airlifted, he's getting the help that he needs. I'm here, and I think I was silent. I don't even really remember. And and then we got to the hospital, and I had the most amazing lady that was with us in the ambulance, and she said to me, okay, it's going to get really intense, but you're going to be okay. And then they wheeled us out, and you know how you see in the movies, and you see like they do the shots of people in their beds, and all they can see is like those fluoro lights above them. That's exactly what it was like.
Oh my goodness.
And you're just like, okay, can't see anything because they've got me in a neck brace and making sure that I'm okay. Get me into a room, and then they do all the checks and balances and make sure that I was okay. And I happened to be okay, which was incredible, apart from a very smashed up face and a broken nose. And all the while, Jono's in the room next to me. I can't see him, but I can hear him. And
oh my gosh.
And I just remember the chaos that was happening in that room, and I knew that I couldn't get to him because they were making sure that I was okay, and obviously needed to be with him. And I'm still thinking he's going to be absolutely fine, you know. There's going to be we're going to have a summer worth of reading to do, you know, like, and not a whole lot of movement. And I don't think I've already said this yet, but he was a musician, and he's a drummer, and he had a whole summer filled with drumming gigs and doing all sorts of things. And at this stage he was still very much talking and conversing with the people. And I just remember asking the nurse, I'm like, how's he going? She was like, and I just knew, like, I knew that it wasn't a good scenario. So they wheeled him into 7 hours of surgery. He happened to have broken most of his right side of his body, and lost a lot of blood, had a lot of lacerations to his legs and bits and pieces. And then all the while I was just waiting to see what happened. And they ended up clearing me and putting me into a little ward, and my parents drove down to Tauranga, and same with Jono's parents, drove down, and we stayed the night and just waited to hear how Jono was going. And when we I think it was probably about 3 a.m, got a call from the surgeon saying everything went really well. Super happy. We spent about 7 hours in surgery, which is a long time. And and we fixed everything apart from his shoulder was still was still broken, so they decided to leave that and fix that for another time. They didn't want to leave him in surgery too long. And at this point I had a shower, and like I had glass everywhere all over me, and it was just a crazy experience. I'm so grateful that my family came down straight away to help me. And then the next day we went in and saw him at hospital. He his face was absolutely fine, like nothing touched his face. He looked like an angel, but his whole body was in different just healing. And they were like, cool, we're gonna take some time to wake him up. And they started that process, and when they started to wean him off the sedatives, they noticed that he wasn't responding. And then and he wasn't waking up. And then they're like, that's cool, it might just be that he's got quite a lot of sedative in his body, so don't wait for him to wake up. And then they did it again, I think the next day. Such a long time ago, I don't remember exactly the time.
And it would have felt like a lifetime.
And then they realised that he was not responding to being woken up, and I happened to overhear a conversation, which I probably shouldn't have heard, but I heard it anyway, of the doctor saying, we've done some scans of his brain to another doctor, and we think that he's got swelling to his head, to his brain, so we're going to need to ship him off quickly. And all the while, I'm not meant to hear this conversation, so they pull us into the room and they talk to us, and they they speak to us through his injuries and how he's possibly not going to feel his left foot or one of his feet, or so many different things. And then they realised, hey, like, we actually need to get him out of here, and we need to take him to Waikato because that's the best place for him to figure out what's going on with his brain. So they put him in a helicopter, they took him out, and then I had to drive in a car for a couple of hours to go up to Waikato, which was like the most nerve-wracking. Yeah. First of all, driving in a car on open roads. Yeah. Thankfully,
it's not
I
really
was.
Where you want to be.
Thankfully, I was with my father-in-law, and he's awesome. Yeah. And the family was so good with the drive. So we went up there, and it was apparent very fast that there was something really wrong. So he got put into ICU. They did all the brain scans, and they're like, yeah, he's definitely got a brain injury, so we're going to have to, and swelling to his brain, so he's going to be in an induced coma, and we'll just continue to see how it goes and wake him up as time goes on. Yeah. So that all happened, and then we ended up spending about 2 to 3 weeks in Waikato. And this was at Christmas time, so spending Christmas time in ICU in the Waikato, and the hospital was absolutely amazing. ICU was so incredible, and the nurses were so amazing, but Jono just was not responding, and they were trying to bring the sedatives down and give his brain some space to heal. So that's the whole reason why they put them into a coma, is to give them time just to heal and the swelling to go down. Yeah. So we got called into a room, and the families together, and the poor nurse, I remember the look on her face, her name was Jenny, and she was just so devastated. And this doctor, he was actually, we had these amazing doctors, but this particular doctor was, one of those doctors, and he said, look, there's 3 options here. Jono's either gonna die, or he's going to be like this for the rest of his life, or he'll slowly get better. He said, but we don't see that the third option's even an option for him. And so he said it's very unlikely that you'll have a positive outcome here. And it was such a strange experience, because I was hearing this guy saying these things, but then I had this I can only explain it as I don't know if anyone's seen the Hunger Games. Have you guys seen the Hunger Games? But like the vortex that they live in?
Yes. Oh my God.
It's it felt like this wall of vortex just came up in front of me, and he was saying these words, but they just weren't going through. They weren't penetrating, and it was just it was just they were just bouncing off, and he left. We were like, thank you. Obviously you have to tell us the realities. Yeah. He left us in the room, and then we spent about half an hour, and we were like, no, this is not what's happening. Wow. And we had this massive rip-roaring prayer meeting in this room, and it was amazing with both of my family and Jono's family. And then from there, miraculously, we started seeing that day after very small signs of Jono recovering. So we went through that whole process, and when I say small signs, I mean literally opening his eyes. Yeah. Or on New Year's Eve, it was the best thing, because I kissed him at midnight, because they let us be in there, and he actually kissed me back, but he was still asleep. So it was all these
in
things.
that moment you're like, that is a lot.
It was a gift. Yeah, definitely. So all these small things that led to him kind of coming out of ICU into the HDU, and then into a ward. Yeah. And this is still he's not talking, he's not really moving, he's just, he's a shell of himself, basically. And then we get to 3 weeks after, they move us to Auckland Hospital, and we spend another 3 weeks there. He goes through the whole process of getting off the things that he needs to get off, the feeding tube and that kind of thing, because the brain obviously holds all of your functioning. And just day after day, just going into the hospital, seeing what progress has been made, I remember we took him for a shower one day and he said his first words, and it was like, it was so funny because it was like, feels good.
Is that what he said? Oh my gosh.
I was like, I thought he was talking about work, because I was like, I think you're talking about work right now. And because it's so him, he's like such focus, like work guy.
Like the music,
and I was like, no, don't worry about it. And then as I figured out what he was saying, he was like, oh yeah, feels good.
Oh my goodness.
And so just small milestones, and then we spent 3 months in a rehab facility for brain injuries. And then
did you stay there with him in the facility?
No, I didn't get to stay with him.
So you were also away from him while dealing with this.
Yeah. And then I remember like having dreams of like not being able to get in touch with him, like all those kind of things, the intensity of just feeling like you're separated from someone that you love. And so we went through the 3 months, and his recovery at a place called ABI, which was an amazing place. His physical recovery was really fast and really strong, but obviously the brain takes a lot longer to heal. And we're still very much on that journey. But he just keeps going from strength to strength, so he's doing really well now, which is exciting.
Wow. Out of control. Like you listen, and even when you're talking about humour in the little moments of, I mean, it's not very funny, but you are able to say, oh, it's funny that you're saying that it's your first words is feel good, or this, even the kiss. It's so the simple treasures in that where you were able to have that. And I can also imagine some people wouldn't be able to be in the mindset to even enjoy that, or it's really nice that you were able to process even a little bit in your mind to be like, he kissed me back.
So good. And obviously, you know, life for you had turned upside down. Literally
changed forever.
It changed. And you know, you, I guess, had to grieve your old life and what that looked like. And so what was that like?
It was and is really tough.
Wow.
It's I mean, we all go through it, and it's the reality of the life that you've dreamed of. So to give you some context, Jono was like an incredible, and he is an incredible musician, but he was the top of his field, and we were having discussions prior about going to LA and him pursuing his career over there. So rounding off all of these things that we thought life would look like. To be honest, like, I'm a very different person now, even to what I was then. And it's just the milestones of living out grief, and knowing and understanding that actually God does have a greater picture, but also it's important to recognize that there are things that haven't gone according to the way that I planned or dreamed. And same for Jono, you know, and my stuff looks different to his stuff as well. Because it's the things like going traveling and you know, having kids and those kind of dreams that you have that you have to take time to let go and grieve. And not that we don't ever want to have kids, but it's the timing and the way that you thought you'd think it would happen. So it's been an interesting time, and I've felt like I think for a while I thrived off my own strength, like because everyone would be like, you're so strong, you're doing so amazing, and you know, everything's you're doing so well in the face of it all. But like I had said to Emma the other day, like my strength became my weakness because I didn't allow people to help me navigate this road called grief, and actually just put my hand up and say, I'm having a really hard time right now, like I need your help. And so I've just had to learn how to do that, because sometimes I can take pride in my own strength and having it together in the face of complications and complicated life.
Yeah.
But actually, I don't have to do that alone, which has been a really big learning curve for me. So, I feel like I'm still very much on the grief journey, and I don't think it will ever go away. But I also recognise that that's my version of grief, and everybody has their own. You know, everyone has their own things that they dreamed their life to be, and then we will have to navigate and re-navigate what the future looks like, pending on the challenges that we've faced.
And I think it's also about the expectation of how we decide. I mean, it's good to have expectation, but how we decide something's going to happen, or how we think something's going to happen, and when that shifts, even as slightly, and yours was dramatically, it's really hard to navigate, even in just daily life, when you think a day is I'm gonna have a really good day today, this is what we're gonna do, and then it doesn't happen like that. Me as a person, it really throws me, and I can switch from really happy to like really frustrated about what I thought. So when something like your dreams and your world with someone who you love, because I would say this has shifted you as a person, but also it's changed his personality and character, because he's physically, and his brain has shifted, and things have had to relearn behaviours, and I think that would be one of the hardest things, is the person you love. Did you ever feel like you had to get to know him again?
Yes, definitely, 100%.
I can't.
And like in a really strange, like, there's no handbook, you know, like people with his type of injury. I remember researching, a bit of like a geek when I first started researching, but he is, I think it's like a 10% chance of people with his brain injury even surviving, and then like a 1 to 2% of them actually thriving beyond his injury. And so that in itself, like, there's no handbook, there's no roadmap to this stuff, and because the outcomes are so unknown, often the doctors don't have anything to say, because everybody's got different things, and so they have to give you the worst case scenario, but also you try to navigate, well, we don't have the worst case scenario, so now I'm going to have to figure out and learn you as a person again, and also he's learning me as a person, because like I said before, I've changed so much. Like I was a very I would say I was probably not that confident before this whole thing, and then you get thrown in into this like world of having to make decisions for someone's life. And I felt in that moment though so empowered and called to be that person. That was like this thing that rose up in me, like, well, no, actually, like, these are my decisions to make, with like the entrustment of the Holy Spirit and God with me to make these decisions, and obviously people in wise counsel to go through this and help him, and so just like having to navigate all of that, and us learning each other, and now our recent thing has been like, actually these are normal married problems, not these are all the problems because of this thing, and there are things that are because of the accident, there are things that are maybe a bit slower in coming to fruition for us because of the stuff, but actually like to stop blaming the things that happened, and being able to just recognize, hey, we're actually having a tough time because two married people are getting together 24/7. And we all change, right? Like we all change over time, and so it's easy to become like victim to what's happened to you, rather than just like using what you have to create and form this life that you want to have, which is what we try and really focus on, which is tough. It is tough because
it's hard to get that perspective when it's right in front of you and you're navigating, because I think also when you first go through it, people are really supportive and praying for you and next to you and standing with you, and then it gets to a point where the door kind of closes and you're just now in normal life, and it's really your reality, and that's sometimes where it can become really heavy because you're now over the adrenaline's not really the right word, but just the whole newness and then it just kind of simmers out and you're like, this is it. This is it. Was there a shift or a pivot where you've had to make a decision to be like, this is it?
Yeah.
This is our situation. Let's...
Yeah, absolutely. There's always points over time, like I think. But if I see it like, if it's a question on the table, then I have to answer it. Yeah. And the question for me at the very beginning was not about our circumstances, actually about whether God was good or not. And I just settled like I can't be on the fence about this. Like I either believe he is or he isn't. So I answered that question for myself. God is good. And God is good, all of these things, you know, like I'll deal with all the stuff that comes with it, but if he is good, then that's my reference point, that's the place that takes me forward. And so because I answered that question early on, by the grace of God really, I was able to keep coming back to that. And then it's like the decision of being in the marriage, you know, because it's been tough. Like,
and that's what I have admired so much about you as a wife. And I'm going to get emotional now, but I just think you deserve to be honoured. Because I think it's been a really tough road for you, and I think this story is going to inspire so many people. Because you've stayed the course. And you know, when I have a tough day, I honestly think I'm like, there's times where I'm like, Geneva, you know, like, and your story, because I'm like, I'm so inspired. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
get emotional, but I just, I think
that's a big enough thing in itself to be like, I'm gonna stay and honour you and love you, even when no one's around. I'm gonna love you.
And you've carried on, you've pursued that in that hardship, and I think that is incredibly inspiring.
Thank you.
I just think you're amazing.
Thank you.
And obviously, like, for me, you're just my hero in general, and I think looking
and mine,
and
probably more mine.
But you know, from what I know you and your story, and I guess you just seem content in it. And I know before you were saying around the fact that you used your strength and that was your weakness because you kind of held everything together. And I think it is easy to do that in those moments, and like even contentment, I think you kind of embody that because you just, this is my life and I'm gonna walk with that. And
but was that a kiss thing when she said he kissed me back? Like, I think she was content in that moment of saying he kissed me back.
I know.
Look where she was.
No, I know.
He's not even awake, and she's like enjoying that. She said that's a gift. Like, for me, I'm like, I want that contentment, and
I know and was that always the case, or has it been a wrestle?
It's definitely 100% been a wrestle. Because it is easy to compare. It's easy to go, well, this person's at this stage, or even feel like this is holding me back, you know, this is holding me back as a person, but all the while I'm actually getting developed and formed into who I am today, which is a powerful thing. And I think it does always just come back to the decision that I made early on, that God is good, and that if he is, then he has good things for me, and that contentment is found not in the stuff, or even in like, contentment's not even in my marriage, you know, like it's a part of who I am, but my contentment is actually found in my relationship with God, that, like, you know, God, and without sounding weird about it, like, God was my husband in that time, and like,
he was close.
And I've had so many times of like, specifically in the car, and I'm having a moan to God about like, you know, why can't, you know, when am I going to have kids, and when are we going to do this, and when are we going to do that, and why don't people understand what I'm going through, you know? And God, I remember God specifically saying to me when I said, why don't people understand? He's like, people aren't meant to understand, because the only person that can truly understand is me. And that's what creates the intimacy, the relationship, the depth knowing God in such a powerful way, and then you don't have to go and try and find your fulfillment in your job or in your friendships or in your marriage or in the stuff that you buy. Like that's just in addition to the good life that God gives you. And it's hard to explain that fulfillment apart from using just the word fulfillment. And I always have to continually come back to that because it's easy for me to get distracted by other things that I'm trying to find fulfillment and wholeness and fullness in. Like I can't actually find that in Jono, and I wouldn't have been able to find that in him, accident or not, because it's not where there's a commitment and a covenant there that's powerful, and the intimacy does replicate the love of God to us, but also married or not, the contentment can only be found in that relationship with God. That's been the thing that I just had to keep coming back to and wrestling with and being really honest with God. I think sometimes we treat God like we can't be honest with him.
Have a big conversation.
And
it's
so
big enough. And even when you talk about the marriage aspect, I know people will be listening, relationship or marriage, and I've always said, Daniel, I need him and I love him, but he's not my everything. And he can't be that for me. And I can't be that for him. I first have to find who I am in God and all he says I am and all he wants me to do. And sometimes I will do something and Daniel won't understand in that way because he's like, where are you going? I'm like, I really feel like God needs you to do this or that. And if I was waiting for his approval the whole time to encourage me and be like, I think you should go and do this and this, then I would feel so misunderstood if I was waiting on him to direct everything that I am. And so I love that you say that about your contentment and fulfillment outside of Jono. No matter what it looks like, you're going to stay committed and love and need from him. But this is where God is where you fully are there. And we had to ask down here one of her biggest strengths, but I feel like we've spoken about biggest strengths, so I'm gonna just jump to the point of, when you think about your story and all that you have, there's grief, there's commitment, there's lots of layers. Somebody listening now is saying, I'm so glad I'm hearing this hope. And Geneva speaking, even I'm like walking out of here I'm amazed. What do you want people to take from your story? What would be the thing that you would hope someone would hear?
I think I would want people to hear to not give up. You know, don't give up. Don't throw the towel in just because it's tough today. There is perspective for tomorrow. And,
oh my goodness.
So good. And also, like, I found in those very early days with Jono that as long as there's life, literally life, there is hope. Like, as long as there's breath in our lungs, there's, you know, people out there that are so unwell or, you know, might be carrying the burdens of this whole 2020 or whatever they find themselves in, that there is actually hope because you're breathing, you're alive, like you can do it. So just don't give up and just know that you hold hope and that it will get better. And to enjoy the moments that it is good, because those are the important moments to just take in and
don't give up because it's hard in today.
In 2020.
I think that is just like, that needs to be the title of this whole thing. If you're still watching wherever you are to this point, that is all we need to take away.
Don't give up. You're amazing. You're actually amazing. I feel so thankful.
I feel like this couch has been like real blessed. Like this is like,
it is.
I'm like,
so good. So obviously Human As, we're all about community. We're all about those that have, I guess, been on our journey and been in our road. I know there'll be heaps. But Who would you like to
Who would I like to thank? Do I look at the camera?
Yeah. Look at the camera.
Yes, there are so many people. There are so many people to thank. But when I thought about this question and the girls asked me who I would want to thank, I'm going to try not to get emotional, but hey, it's been an emotional time. Matt and Julie Linton. Matt is currently my boss at work, but also they were our pastors through this whole thing. And we've got so many amazing pastors, so many amazing friends and family. But Matt and Jules, you opened your home to us when we needed it, and it would be like 5 minutes before, and we'd text you and say we're coming over. You've always been available for a phone call, and just to love us through this whole scenario, and to encourage us and just bless us. And I just want to honour you guys today for just being there for us, and not overcomplicating it, not undercomplicating it, just being real and being there and being faithful. And we are who we are today because you invested into us in that time. You encouraged us to not give up, and just to keep it real, but also just to have dreams for the future. So I love you guys. I know Jono loves you guys, and just want to thank you for being awesome.
Yay, get in here.
Oh my gosh.